the bonds themselves give you the flexibility to use it pretty much anywhere in that category. And that flexibility is important because depending on how quickly you spend the bonds, priorities, needs, community desires might shift a little bit. But you know, if the fire station has a station that's not on this list that the foundation gave out or whatever, it'd move up on the list. If you had fire bond money available, fire facility bond money available, and a pool needed to be replaced, you couldn't use the funds for that. It has to stay within the bond categories. And the way you balance it is provide examples of projects that you do intend to do. Keep the language vague enough that it allows flexibility, but still gives you a good idea of what's going on. We have the authority to borrow money. That's all the bonds are. The actual borrowing of the money is a separate issue. And that's, going back to those 2008 bonds, that's why even though the bonds passed in 2008, we might not have issued the bonds until 2018, say we pushed it out. Typically, you've got 10 years to issue the bonds. So, it can be quite delayed, and that's also a challenge to balance that, going back to community expectations. It's very typical and very understanding. You see a project listed on the bond education material, and it's like, oh, okay, great. And then you don't see that happen in your neighborhood next year. It's like, well, what happened, But that's just not the way it works. It takes a lot of time for, again, most of these are major projects that take time to do. And even the ability to issue the bonds takes planning, and there's a lot of financial stewardship involved with that. For example, we cannot issue all $135 million of those bonds this year. If they say it passes in July, it's not going to happen this year. We spread that out over time. So the first issuance might be 40 or $45 million, and then the next issuance sort of a similar amount, because that is to maintain the amount of debt service that you're paying on it. We can borrow up to that amount. There's nothing saying we have to borrow it, when we have to borrow it, except for within 10 years, because that's just how good the issuance is. The plan is to have it all issued by 29.